Hi there, and welcome to the BIMvoice podcast. My name is Petru and I'm glad to have you here. I'm a civil engineer living and working in Norway since 2014, and I'm passionate about building information modeling. I truly believe change is necessary and inevitable in our industry. To implement faster, better, and less costly ways of working, digital transformation is vital, and everyone involved must stop just talking about implementing BIM and actually do it. And what way to do it better than just to learn from the ones who have done it in the past or are doing it right now? Hi, and welcome to a new episode of BIMvoice podcast. Today's guest is Yassir Fayyaz. He's a BIM specialist, co-founder and CEO of C3BIM, a BIM consulting company based in Oslo. Hi, Yassir, and welcome to our podcast.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's interesting. It's actually my first podcast, and so we'll see how we can talk about what I do and what C3BIM is, because we've been doing this for a while, but C3BIM is it's a pretty young company. So I'm going to can introduce myself. I've started with BIM in 2012. I graduated from technical school in Oslo with it was like a BIM technician degree, and I started working in a company that it was called BIM Consult. And BIM Consult was started in 2009-10 by 3 other students, and I was the first employee of that company. So that was pretty interesting, pretty new for me. My background is in glass and facades. I've been working like almost 10 years with aluminium and facades in large construction. So also when I started with the BIM, I was focusing on my background, but I found out very early that I didn't need that kind of experience. So because I focused on the process of BIM and BIM coordinating, that was my main goal, to learn more about it and understand what that was. So when I started in this first company, I worked a lot with architects and with the early design phase, and I got to understand what's in it for the architects, because earlier I was working on a construction site and we didn't have any relations to the design team. So that was the interesting part of my when I started, that I learned a lot about how does a building evolve and how does it get born, and what are the main focus in the early stages. So that was my first experience to learn more about that. And I just found out that the process around how we cooperate is really interesting, because it's not only the models, and it's not only like BIM that's the main part of it. The main part of it is the people and how the people are working together. So that was early on, I understand that was interesting for me. So yeah, I started with this, and focusing on how the people are working together, and that was the interesting part of it. So and in 2 years, and from 2012 to 2014, I was the one employee, and then we got 2 other guys that started in BIM Consult in around 2014. And throughout 2014, we were working together and we got to know each other. And but then Sweco is a big company in Norway that acquired BIM Consult. They bought the company, and all of the guys were going into Sweco.
So that's how you ended up in Sweco. Okay, I did not know that. That's interesting. Yeah, they are a big multinational company. They work. They work mainly in Europe, but they have offices in other countries as well. and they used to acquire other companies. So yeah.
Yeah. So that was the story so far. That we in 2014, I think it was in November 2014, we started in Sweco. And we came into like an own department, all of us. We were 6 guys started in Sweco, and we started like spreading our experience and knowledge throughout Sweco and working with Sweco projects. Some of us was working more internal projects in Sweco and teaching the guys working there or about what we know. And some of us had projects that we had before Sweco, so we was continuing working with this. So that's like our story so far, and we started also C3 BIM in 2017, so everything was going pretty fast for us. So we were 2014 to 2017, we worked in Sweco, and me and 2 other guys, the 2 other guys that was also employees of BIM Consult, we went out and started C3. So I can tell you more about why and how we started C3 and what's the reason for it. So I can get into that. But mainly in Sweco, we was some of us was working, like I said, with projects we had, and we also took these projects with us after Sweco also. So but basically it's been a really good experience for us to be inside of a big company, because we came from a small company, went into a really large company, and see what's the challenges of working in a big company. We get to feel how it is with our network was like really broad before we went into Sweco, and automatically it narrowed down to Sweco, and we got like more of the other large companies were more like competitors than collaborators.
Okay, so I see. I thought you were going to say exactly opposite, but yeah, you narrowed it down, because when you were smaller company, you are in contact with everybody. You try to help. You try to get work from everybody or collaborate, right?
Yeah, of course. And that's I didn't think so. I didn't think that was going to be an issue, because when I went in there, I think like, okay, now we get more projects, we get broader network and everything. But it's actually the opposite feeling, because I had a big network in all of the other companies that is like Sweco, but they're competitors, if I can say it like that.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit limited to working with Sweco than the other companies, and I understand it, because
Rules. There are so many rules in corporations.
yeah, rules and interests. So yeah, so that was a little bit of why we started C3, because we wanted to be not attached to somebody. We wanted to be able to broaden our network, work with different people, learn a lot from different people. And that's pretty much the main thing about why we started C3, because it's, yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, of course. And also it's pretty much the freedom, of being a small company, because I like the thought that it's not I would just want to be my own boss and everything. It's not like that. It's more of the network, because I can work with a lot of different people all the time. And of course, we work in big projects, and then we get limited to that project, but then we can move on to another customer that works with totally different projects. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not only that, I was laughing because actually this is exactly what I feel. This is exactly the reason why I started my own company as well. And something you did not say about, but I don't know, maybe you don't do it too much. But for me, the most important thing is actually to be able to put so much time I want in my projects, and to put so much money I want into those projects. You are much more limited. when you work in a bigger company. Of course, there are also advantages, of course, like even if you say the network is more limited, but at the same time you get access to much more resources as from other point of view. Like you have colleagues that like they work already or did lots of nice things on some interesting projects, and at the same time it's easier like to work on the biggest projects out there, right? But there are this is no wrong or right. I don't see it like that way. Some people are thriving best working in that environment, and that's perfectly fine. That's not wrong. But like you say, I feel exactly the same. I'm like a bird. I need to fly on my own and to find my own path. And that I really commend you for this, because this is really interesting.
Yeah, and also I agree totally on the resources you get from a big company, because when we were in Sweco, we get to understand how a big company works a lot more, and we get to know a lot of people because they have all the disciplines. You know, they have everything from infrastructure to buildings and technique and everything. So we learned a lot in the years we were there. So it's interesting to see how I appreciate that experience I had in Sweco, of course, and also we still know them, you know. So we are working with them and trying to find ways to work with them already now. So we are still in contact. So that's nice. I didn't want to burn any bridges with them when we went out. So it's I really appreciate that. So yeah. Oh, it's nice to don't have any grudges with the companies you were in, so you can still, you know, build on your network. So that's yeah, that's the main thing I think for us, is that we continue to build our network, and we can also use our earlier relations. So yeah.
A little bit how your company grew and what you are offering. What are you exactly doing, actually?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because when we started, we know we did like many other companies. I think we know you started with the we created some actions for ourselves, that this is what we want to do, and we have some visions, and we want to, you know, be like we want to take it a little bit further always. So we want to see what we do we need to do to like evolve, and also personal, but also like a company, and who do we want to be in the industry, because that's our main thing, that we want to know where we are going. We want to know where the industry is going. And yeah, so if we think about it a little bit high up, then this is our vision, that we want to see like a little bit inside the crystal ball, that what is our goal. And of course that's a that's a difficult thing to do, but we want to use our experience to help the industry go in the right direction. So uh, we started off with three guys, and of course it's me, and we are two other guys. That one guy is a plumber in his background, and one guy is an electrician. So we have like different backgrounds,
Very practical ones.
very practical ones, and that's the kind of thing that gets from this technical school. We have a degree in like a BIM technician, and we have different backgrounds, and everybody has been outside working, building buildings in some kind of way. So we have a very practical background, and we use that when we look at the design, when we see the model, when we see what the architects are doing, we are thinking, okay, how are you building this? And that's pretty interesting, because all of the BIM technicians in our industry today, we have a lot now, and since they started with this school in 2009, I don't know how many we are, but there's a lot of guys out there with this practical background, and it's interesting to see how they are using it, because they always think about, okay, but how are you going to build this? you design something, you do a solution in the model, it's fine, and you clash detect it, and you do everything, and it looks perfect. But how are you going to build it? That's the big question for us. So I try to use that mindset when I go into a project and look at it, because that creates a little bit of value with the question that we bring. So that's the practical background that's positive for the design phase. Yeah, we started off with these three guys, and after the first year, we hired one more guy, and he's like a carpenter background, and working, also very practical guy, but he also have some experience as accounts consulting from earlier, so that was really good. And the last guy we hired the year after, he's also an electrician, so a little bit younger guy, new to the field, but learning really fast working with us. So that's really good.
That's the most important skill, I would say.
Yeah, so that's pretty much, we are five guys working together now. And a little bit about our projects is that the main focus on what we deliver to our customers is that BIM coordinator kind of work. So we do all from small projects to big projects where we coordinate models. And like I said earlier, we coordinate how the people are working together with the models. So our main focus is like the BIM manager, you can call it like a coordinator. It's like, yeah, putting the models together, seeing and identifying what kind of purpose you are for the model, working with the requirements. So our main focus is the coordinator role, but we also do a lot of different things from like doing the modeling. If somebody has old drawings and needs a model, we also can offer that service. But it's not our main focus, but we try to use all of our experience in everything we can do. So yeah, basically we do a lot of different things with BIM, but it's related more to the building. We don't do a lot of infrastructure or kind of project like that. So mainly for the building, because that's our experience, and also the coordinating the models. That's our biggest experience. But yeah, so I think that's our main focus. We also have another thing that's pretty interesting, and we like to do it because we like to offer it. That's teaching and setting up different classes to companies or to the schools. And also if the schools need help with filling some time because they don't have a teacher or something, then we can go step in and do some classes in the different software or something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do. And also, like I said earlier, we like to look at new things. You know, we can look at new software, we can look at new purposes and try to fit them together and see how we can deliver something a little bit better every time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something nice to live up to. What does your company's name means?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't start with that, because C3 is C3 is like it was. I can tell you a story now, a little bit story, if that's okay. Because when we earlier, before we started the company, me and one of the other guys was we had a lean course. We were at the lean class, and everybody was thinking new and trying to be smart, and have all these post-it notes, and we were going to work with that and learn how to use it. So then I started working with okay, what creates value for us when we are sitting here doing this lean class. And I started, like taking notes and writing up things in my mind. And I tried to figure out, well, okay, what are we doing? What is our role in projects? What is our role in this industry? So what did we do? I started writing, consulting, coordination, collaboration, communication, everything, because we were at Lean Communication. So I started writing this. And basically, that's how the idea of what we do is consulting and collaboration and coordination. So that's our base of our name, is because it's what we do.
Three C's, the three C's.
That's our three C's, yeah,
And BIM. Okay, now let's go
and BIM.
back to BIM a little bit. Tell me
Yeah,
your understanding of BIM. What is BIM for you? How do you understand it and how do you use it?
I always like to think that BIM is not like that's not a product for me. BIM is more like a way to work. So because earlier I tried to stop using the word BIM and thinking like yeah, it's more of a natural evolvement of the industry. You have to do it. It's just like using new technology. Like I switched to a smartphone in 2007 because I know that, okay, this is like how it's going to be now. So that's BIM for me. It's just a natural way of how the industry is going. So I try not to use the BIM word too much because some people get like scared of it. Think it's that, oh, another thing, another new thing to do, and it's yeah, it's a hassle more than it's good. So but our name has to have BIM because people understand much more and it's easier for the industry to understand what we do. But BIM for me is more of a process. It's like I said earlier, I focus on the process and like how the people are working together is more of a process, connecting all of the things in the project to work together. That's BIM for me, more than just a model. The 3D model is just it's just an asset to BIM. It's not like BIM.
It's just a part. Yeah, this is actually a very common mistake, and this is one of the reasons I started this podcast to clarify this, to demystify this. BIM is not just a 3D model. BIM is the process. BIM can be a philosophy of how you work.
Yeah. So that's the interesting part for me, that I saw this very early on, that we tried to, like, yeah, like you said, demystify the use of the word BIM, because it's not just a model, it's just how we work, and it's natural that you deliver a model and it creates a lot of things. So you have information, you have clash detection, you're more sure that you're going to build what is going to be built, and then you are managing to doing it. So yeah, I think that more and more people also understand that BIM is a lot more than just a 3D model. It's more of the way we work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the I in the word, the information, it would be a mistake to also think about this information, only the information in a model. I think when you talk about information here is everything that you get and put together, like how you think a project, how you plan it, how you design it, how you build it, and how you use it. Everything, every bit of information from this is part of the BIM process. And not everything from here goes into the 3D model.
Yeah. That's interesting also to talk about the I in the BIM, because I think it was maybe like, if you look back 4 or 5 years ago, everybody was like drawing up the logo for BIM with the I bigger, and because this is the important information, is everything in BIM. So, and of course it's important. If you don't have the information, if you don't know what kind of information you have, it's important to have that right, because when the information, if the information is wrong, then the model is not going to be useful. But like you say that there's a lot of things going around this model, and not everything is going into the model. It's how you use the model to connect with other platforms, other databases, and everything. So how are you going to use it? That's very important that you say that also, because if you look at the big wheel around it, you have a lot of different things that's going to be delivered in a project, and you have BIM is just like a small part of it. So like the drawing, you say you have a visualization always that is like the BIM is in the center, and then you have a process going around it. But I think so now that BIM is not in the center, it has to be on the side. It's a part of the process. Yeah, it's a part of the process, but there is something else, the building that's going to be out there in reality that's more important, and see how are all the platforms, databases, and everything you use around it, how is that going to affect this building that is actually going to stand there in reality? That's more important, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually the last part, modeling. It's modeling, not model. It's like what I understand from this is like how you model information, building information modeling, how you are modeling information about buildings. So it's not even a hint to the 3D model, but it was like very easy and uncomfortable to understand that. And yeah, it's or software or something, right? But yeah, it's like how you model the entire information for a project from start to finish and use. Yeah, you said that this is becoming like a de facto because it's happening. Like you say, this is not something need to happen, but I don't know if you are aware because you are lucky and live in Norway. This is not happening all over the world, as you might well be aware about. So, what do you think is the state of BIM in Norway, for example? Have we come up quite far in this journey? Uh, are we starting to work as a whole and implement this new way of approaching projects?
What can I say? I like to think that Norway is a further ahead, and further ahead. It's true that we are in many places, but there is some parts that I wish had come further. I wish that if you use the word standardization, then maybe we should be further. But what can I say? I think that the positive thing about working in Norway is that for many years now, the projects have been like driving the process. All of the different projects have tested a lot of different solutions and come up with really good ideas of how this is actually working. So I think that the project has been the main driver for how BIM is in Norway today, and we lack a little bit in the standardization with the contracts and how we are demanding it and how the requirements for BIM is. But I see now that I work a lot with Statsbygg projects, the government projects, so I see the involvement is a lot better with them. So and the requirements they are setting to the models now is like it's perfect for us because it's exactly what we need to be able to do our job. But in the smaller projects now, then for many years they have been like totally out of the pictures, and everybody's waiting for the government or Statsbygg to like land something, and how are they doing it, then we are going to adopt it. And I hear a lot that, oh no, we can't use Statsbygg requirements because they are too complex. And so everybody's been a little divided between the smaller projects and the bigger projects. So based on what kind of experience you have, you can say how far is Norway in BIM. It's like based on your projects, then some people say that we are way ahead, and some people say that we haven't even scratched the surface because we are working in this kind of project. So it's a little bit, I'm divided into saying that we are far ahead and saying that we are like okay, because I think that Norway is doing a lot of good in the different projects, and also now with all the requirements coming out, and we are basically um, we have a lot of good foundation in how we should work. Yeah, but still, it's still a progress. It's still something that needs to be worked with. So yeah, basically what I mean.
Yeah, I just read some time ago, maybe last week, there is some progress. I think Ban and Orin, working together with Statens Vegvesen, have also released a new standard for the Ringeriksbane-prosjektet. So that's good. They rally together because yeah, that's a little bit sad that everybody looks only for the big entities, the big actors, and also for the owners, right? Uh, yeah, I think it would help if this would be like a more common. Like this is another proof of not good enough communication between the parts. Um, Everybody tries a little bit to delegate the responsibility. How can we do this better? What should we do to get this better? Because I think the communication is key here. The communication is the biggest problem. The communication between different actors and the silos. What can we do to remove the silos, or at least to connect them in a better way?
I think that we are already onto something. And I think that a lot of the companies now, they're changing how the company is working with the digitalization and BIM. So I see that now that if you look at big companies like AF and Veidekke in Norway, and a lot of the big contractors out there in Norway, then you see that they changed a bit in structure, because now they have departments to work with digitalization. They have departments only for BIM, and they focus more on having more BIM technicians, because they see that these guys can try something, can test something that creates value back for us, back to the company. And that's an interesting way to do it, because all of these guys are meeting in like conferences and seminars and everything, that's where they share their knowledge. And that, I think that's a way to start working with uh, on how we're going to fix the silos, because the silos is like, okay, there's a group of people maybe working a bit together. You create some kind of cluster with different people, but these clusters are basically nobody knows what they're doing, and somebody sees the presentation at some kind of conference, and then okay, that's nice, but that doesn't give me anything. So I think that now the structure in the companies are changing a little bit, and people are working more together now than they did before. Everybody, it's based on who you're asking, I think, because everybody has different opinions on this topic, maybe. But I see that I try to like look at the industry today and see, okay, where can I get information? How easy is it for me to get that information? So with like Building Smart, and you also have organizations for working with BIM technicians from the technical school. So and there's a different for us for talking to people. And I try to look at the industry and see today how is this actually easy information to get. And it's easier now than it was maybe 4 years ago to get information from the Norwegian industry. So that's a positive thing, I think. So yeah, it's getting better, and I think that's the way we have to go to open up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned building smart. How close are you following?
I try to follow as much as I can. We are like a member of Building Smart. we don't have all the time I wish we had to join workshops and everything, but I try to follow webinars nowadays, and I try to every year also have to go to the conference and like try to talk to people, because when I go to the conference, it's not only for the presentation, it's much more for talking to people and see how what are people focusing on today. So we don't have this yeah, maybe we should be able to contribute more to building smart, but yeah, our main focus is on our projects. So
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. But are they on the right path? Are they doing like, are they what we needed?
yeah, try not to be too critical here, but I think that building smart has, you know, they had a lot of different paths. I think they're going in one direction and then they change direction, and that's the good thing in many cases. And I think the path they are on now, I participated in some webinars and tried to listen into what are they focusing on, and their focus right now is, to me, it looks really good, and they're trying to create a lot of work groups and create workshop, and that invites people in from the industry. So that's a good path to be on for an organization like Building Smart, because I think that Building Smart has to be like call it a support for the industry of understanding what is this, what is Building Smart, and what is their main goal, and how can they support their members, and creating these workshops and giving the possibility to like give contributions to open standards. Right now they had like a webinar for BCF, and they're creating a work group where we can contribute with things that we think it's important, and this will definitely be the right way to go for Building Smart, to keep going with these kind of workshops, because that in the end creates value for us as a member. And I know that a lot of companies today is not members anymore, and that may be a problem for getting the right contributors for these kind of workshop. But I definitely think that they are on the right path now. Yeah.
I also watched some webinars last week and 2 weeks ago. They were quite good, good information learned from there. So yeah, looks like they are on the right path. And I think like right now, I was not very well connected to them. I did not get too much. I did not follow too closely before, but right now, I think COVID-19 situation helped them because they were forced to move from. I Right now I find out they have many conferences around the world I did not know about before, and now because they were forced to move everything online, it was easier for me to access when I have time. And it was a good situation for them because they made a good effort to be there, to be online there, and they had many viewers for these webinars.
Yeah. It's yeah, and it's a little bit different with the Building Smart International than Building Smart Norway. So I see the difference between it, and myself, I haven't been included a lot in the international part of it, and that's basically because I don't have all the time, and like you say, I can't travel too much in the kind of work I have now. So to get it in a webinar is perfect for me to get access to more information, access to more presentation and topics that interest me, because then I can see, okay, these topics interest me, and I can log on to this webinar even though I'm at the project I work with. So yeah, it's positive and very interesting to see that kind of way to do it. It's much better for me also. Yeah.
Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about the cool project you worked on and some specifics?
like I said, the main role we have had in projects is the coordinator role and like the BIM manager role, and that's our biggest experience with we're working with BIM. So naturally, that's what we do in the project. And I can say that right now we are working with two large scale projects. And but earlier we have a lot of experience from also this Statsbygg projects, that is governmental projects. So one of our guys has worked many years in the new National Museum with Statsbygg project. So, and all of us have been included in this project sometime because it's been going on for a long time. So that's like 55,000 square meters of a museum, and it's interesting building to work with, and also the landscape around it is interesting because this is so downtown center of Oslo, so it's a big impact on the area. I remember when it just was a parking lot there, so it's yeah, so it's interesting to see what kind of building is there right now, and now they're opening now, and everything looks really great there. So we had like a BIM coordinator role there with responsibility for the architect model, and we also have one of our guys to work with the the electrical model there. So we have like a different kind of roles inside this project. But we've been following this project from more or less from I started in 2012. So that's
It was not a multidisciplinary model.
yeah, like I said, we work with the architect and the electrical model, but we also had the responsibility for coordinating the interdisciplinary model also. So we did the merging of the models, and we did the clash detection of the models a lot. So we've been coordinating interdisciplinary in this project also. So yeah, it's an interesting project. Yeah.
What kind of software did you use?
We mainly use Solibri. That's our main tool, and basically what we do most of our work in is Solibri. We also use SimpleBIM a lot to validate information, of course, but main of the clash detection and also the information rules that you are able to set up in Solibri. That's why we use this as our main tool. So yeah, and we've been using it for a lot of years and follow the development of this tool. So yeah, that's basically our main tool.
You don't need to use something like Synchro 4D or something like that, right?
We get a lot of questions about if we can deliver a synchro model, and we can do 4D simulations. But I say that what we do connected to the 4D process is more to prepare the models for it. Because if we know that, okay, this project wants to use synchro, then okay, then we need to have quality assurance on our information, so it coexist with the plan, and so our main focus is more like preparing the models for it. If it is a requirement that you are going to use 4D, then we prepare the model for it. We don't use Synchro as a tool ourselves, because I think that the guys need to use 4D is more of the planner and the guys working with planning. And you have like I don't know if it's called the same in English, but the Gantt
The Gantt chart, yeah.
Gantt chart, yeah. That's not something we do. So I think that the planner is more of the right people to work with Synchro. But also you have to have like a BIM guy working with 4D with Synchro also. But yeah, so our main focus is to prepare the models.
So when you say prepare the models, like to check for clashes, and do you do something more than that? Just put together some workflows, or just specific like clash filters?
Basically, when it comes to clashes, of course, it's, check for duplicates and check for big clashes so you don't have a lot of geometry unnecessary for the models. So in Solibri, it's pretty basic to just do the clash detection rules. We always create our own, but I think the most important thing for Synchro is the information that you prepare the information in the model so it connects to the chart, and it's easier for the automation and Synchro to be able to run. So when we use Solibri to quality assure models, it's both geometry and information. And so that's what I mean by preparing the models. It's do the clash detection, do the information checks, see that every wall, slab, and all of the building objects have the right naming, and so you can basically be sure that you deliver something that you can calculate on. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. So you do this before it's sent to the designer, to civil engineer.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay.
The practical part of it is this different,
It's
but
built before it's designed.
yeah, yeah. So I think that our experience is that Synchro comes in a little bit too late in the process, and the requirements for that we are going to use Synchro, it comes a little bit late. Maybe that because you have like contractors needing more of following up how we're going to build this. When is everything going to happen in the construction site? And the design team is not always thinking about that. They think of it only at the end. And then if you're going to put in new requirements in the project for how we are going to deliver information, then Synchro is coming in a little bit too late. So if you know a lot earlier on that, okay, we are going to create a chart that is going to be put in Synchro, and we need some kind of information that coexists with this chart, then you have to know it a little bit earlier so that you know what kind of checks you have to do, what is the requirement of information. So I think that everything, like many other things, has to come a little bit earlier. It's not that you have to do it earlier, it's that you have to know it earlier. So you have to know that, okay, these are the requirements for the next phase and the next after that. Then you know earlier what you have to prepare for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But in practical, it's not easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, what do you use to communicate with the other parties involved in the process? Do you use just email, or how is the workflow between you and the other parties?
It's yeah, we always try to look at new solutions for communicating, but basically it's the project that decides what kind of platforms are you using. So we can, if you think of the big projects using BIM collab for communicating in model, then you need something else for communicating other issues that are outside BIM. Maybe you have a platform for issue database that creates questions, that creates actions and everything. But I think Outlook is the main tool for communicating in projects still. And yeah,
Also for the 3D model, like you said, you mentioned BIM Collab.
yeah, for the 3D model, I think that if the project decides that, okay, we are handling all of our issues in the model in BIM Collab or with BCF. If the requirement says BCF, my recommendation now today, okay, the easiest platform with the easiest user interface right now, it's BIM Collab, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Did you try any other alternatives?
Yes, of course. You have like the with Cotenda, you have BIMsync.
Is the same? Are there competition?
No, it's not directly the same, but I think that what they deliver, it's much more than what BIM Collab. Yeah, it's much more complex, and but it's because they have a really good system for handling issues, connecting it to the model. So and it's more of a tool that is broader than BIM Collab. So that's why I recommend BIM Collab if you just want to get that BCF over and just have to have control with your comments and history of the different issues. And also because of our main tool is Solibri, then we connect it really easy to Solibri. So yeah, but the other BCF servers are a little bit more complex and do a little bit more. So I think that BIM Collab is easy to use because it's pretty simple user interface. And
And to integrate it with the tools you use already, no matter which software you're using. It's straightforward, right?
it's straightforward, yeah. And you also have possibilities for using the API over to Power BI and visualize your progress in a really good way. So and like the user interface is pretty easy. So yeah, that's why we recommend it. Yeah, so that's the communicating with the model, but communicating system for everything else in the project, that's the much more complex, and emails is still the main thing people use. So but it's our goal is to use less email, and but it usually ends up with emails.
I understand. What can you recommend to someone who's interested about BIM? What do you think? There are still many people outside there, like let's say in Norway, right, that are not working. Like they say they work with BIM, but they don't work with BIM actually. Like there are many who still use drawings. I'm mostly drawing myself.
Yeah.
I'm also using Navisworks to put together the model, but I'm mostly making drawings on the project I work right now. What do you think? Are they still are these kind of jobs like few of them in Norway right now, or are there quite enough still?
When you say few, you think about the positions for working with BIM, or
Exactly, like traditional drafters, or more with BIM, let's say. At least only 3D modeling, like without the drawing part.
yeah. I think that if you look at how we are working in Norway today, that we still have the issue that there's a lot of people who don't know the possibilities. So if I can recommend something for people who don't know anything about using BIM, or what it actually means, because most of the people working in the industry today have heard the word BIM. In some kind of setting, you have heard the word BIM. But I think that what creates most value early on is that to see, okay, what is the possibilities of using a model, and what are the tools you have, like Solibri, Simple BIM, Navisworks, and everything. You have a different set of tools you can use with the model, and you have to look at the possibilities for what creates value, and what creates value for your kind of project. If you're working with like small apartment projects or large scale apartment projects, then what can BIM do for this kind of project? What creates value? So and it's a lot of presentation. There's a lot of people out there that has a lot of experience. So it's pretty easy to get that information of what creates value for you. And also for people working as project leaders, what creates value for them, to know what kind of possibilities are there for using BIM. So I think that based on who you are in the industry, you have to see what kind of value this can give to you.
But is there any value for everything, right? Like Are there any situations when we can say, yes, we don't need to use BIM here? Or how do we make how do we go from this to that, to the new age? And like you said, this now is a crash of concepts, right? You must look into and see how do you can get value if you do that way. But when are we coming to a point where you don't need to think about this anymore? Like, yeah, this is the way we do it. Like the passing from the drawings, like physical drawings with the pen, to CAD, right? Are we close to that, or?
I think that what we see now is what creates most value is that you still have the drawings and you have the supplement of the BIM. So you have the model and the drawings. And then you can see what we are looking at now is that how can we take something out of the drawing that creates less work, but maybe we can put that work into the model so we can use it in like on an iPad or something out on the construction site.
Don't we have software solutions for this, like Dalux? I'm not sponsored by Dalux, but aren't they doing something like this?
Yes, of course. And also you have StreamBeam from Rendra. You have platforms for viewing the model. You have more from like Trimble have something, and so there are different solutions for it. But I think that the solutions are one thing, but we have to see what is it that we can take out of the drawing, put into the model, and still have the same value, so we don't lose anything, and maybe give more value out on the construction side. So I think that what we are working on now, especially here in Norway, is that finding that way forward, and what creates value, because we want to say like you have a paperless project and you have a drawingless project, and that's two things that gets mixed up nowadays, and that's very bad to mix up, because if people think that you're going to have a drawingless project, you only base it on the model. And more infrastructure and other kind of different projects, not the building projects, they have gone a little bit further because of the possibilities of using larger models, and the geometry is the main focus. But when you get into the building and inside the building, then drawingless, it's much more far ahead, I think, than paperless, because paperless is naturally you have a PDF, but you put it into the tablet and then you have the drawing on the tablet. So there's a big difference in what the main focuses are right there.
So you say in building is only paperless, and in infrastructure is it goes more towards drawingless.
I don't know if infrastructure is going totally drawingless, but I know from some presentations that there is projects that has delivered only the model and doesn't have any drawings, and many projects are going more and more drawingless, and maybe only having some small 2D details for something. So, but for the building projects, that when you go into the building and you have the architect model and everything else, then it's much more complex to get to all that information you usually have on a drawing to be reflected or transferred onto a model. And it's not, maybe, I don't think that's the totally way to go to get totally drawingless, because 2D can support the model more than the model support the drawings. I think that's the way to go first. And then we have to see what creates value, and do we lose any information on the way to going more and more over to the model. But it's a difficult situation to handle in a project, because the project is going It's not stopping because you don't know if you're having this drawing or this drawing, or you're only going to use models. So the projects have to decide very fast what creates value along the way. And what I'm seeing in some of the big projects is that uh, especially on the MEP disciplines, you have there is an easier way to go to narrow down the amount of drawings. You can have one big drawing on one floor instead of splitting it up in many drawings. So there you have like, okay, this create value, we have one big drawing. And some of the information that is going into these kind of drawings is easier to transfer to models, and it's easier to get access to in a platform where you can view the model. But for the architect model, then it's much more complex. It's a lot of information that is going to the architect model. So if you take walls, for example, you almost never, when you draw out a wall in the model, then all of the different layers in this wall is not going to be separate layers in the model. But on the drawing, you have to have that information. You have to set the measurements all on this drawing because of this, and it's not that easy, and doesn't create all that value for putting all of this into the model.
So it's not so easy to read out this information, but still, we have already, like, it's been maybe 3-4 years since in Norway there are many projects going drawingless, right? They, at least that's what they say. There are many and there are no infrastructure project. There are only buildings. I know Skanska and Veidekke, they are building, and IF maybe as well. They built more projects without drawings, they say, right? So how did they manage to do it then and there? And maybe we must look, I don't know, I have no idea how actually they use it, but yeah, definitely they use tools. I don't know, maybe they made also some drawings to help for some details, but yeah, it might be something to find out a little bit more about.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of projects in Norway that has that say that they do everything drawingless, but I suspect that you can try, but I haven't seen a large scale building project that is going totally drawingless in Norway yet. And if somebody say that, oh, I have a project that you have to see, then please be my guest, invite me to a meeting and show me that you did it, because the projects I've seen that say that, okay, we are going drawingless, they basically end up that, okay, they came 73% of the way, and the last 35 they had to 25 you have to make some details or some drawings. And especially I hear a lot that the architect model is the biggest problem, because they have like many kind of different objects, details and everything in the same plan, so it's much more difficult. So be my guest, invite me to something, I want to see it if somebody say that they did it 100%.
Yeah, I'll try to look for someone who said that and try to bring him on. We had a guest in Thomas Hoss from Baninur in the second episode, and he's working on this project, Drammen Kobbervikdalen, where they are actually not using drawings, or the main objective is to not use drawings, just complementary if needed for details. And this is actually, I don't know, there are at least in Baninur it's the first time when they have this goal, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you also have the traffic station with Statsbygg that's called DigiBig. It's where I wasn't a part of this project, but I basically think that that's where they took it the furthest with Stadsbygg. And I don't know if they had drawings there. So, but also, yeah, I think the project was really small, and that's a good thing to start with the small projects. But in a large scale project, there is so many variables, and there's so many details, and there's so much to handle that that's basically a longer way to go on these kind of projects.
Yeah, I understand.
But I know that we just kept talking after I talked about our first project. So if we can just roll it a little bit back, then I can talk about what the other projects we are working on right now. Because it's interesting. We are a small company of 5 guys, but we tend to work where the BIM requirements are the highest, and that makes the biggest projects in Norway. So it's interesting to talk about our role in these projects, because we have the new hospital in Drammen that is I don't know, 115 square meters of hospital divided on different buildings that is going to be built in Drammen. We have one role there, or maybe 1.5 now, that is working with responsibility for the interdisciplinary model, and also the architect model. So we have like a divided role there that supports the architects, but also have the interdisciplinary BIM manager role. So there we were also working a little bit with Sykehusbygg, which is the public project owner. Yeah, so that's a big project. We have 1 guy, and the project I'm working on, we are 2 guys from us working in this project, and this is the new life science building in Oslo. It's going to be the University of Oslo that owns this building, but it's a Stadsbygg project, and it's a 70,000 square meters of laboratory, and it's a lot of different. It's of course offices and everything, but it's also a campus that is interesting to work with, because it's the landscape model around it is going to change the area a lot. So it's a really interesting project to work on. And the ambitions from Stadsbygg, it's like a project owner, it's really high, and it's really cool to work with. And now we also in this phase we are in now, we have this what do you call it in English? It's like a contract that's brings in the contractor and everybody delivering projects to the building. You know, you have contractors, you have the design team, and you have the project owner, who is Stadsbygg, all working together now in this kind of design phase. So it's interesting, yeah, and it's interesting to see, because we have to create a lot of like routines and procedures that includes this part as well. And that's new for a lot of the people working in design teams. It's new for them, and it's new for the contractors to come in and work with the design team on the early stage, because what I see when I sit there and control the models and see, okay, what kind of models do I have to control now? We also have like all of these contractors supplying the project with models, and that's an interesting part of it, because then you get more answers in how we're actually going to do it outside on the construction side. But we have to know, like, coordinate also when do we need that answer? You know, if we get that answer too early, then maybe the design is not finished yet, And how we are handling this in our project is a use of this MMI, the model maturity index for objects. Yeah. So basically we base on all our control on using of this index, and trying to connect it to all of the objects, and also trying to narrow it down to areas in the building, because it's a large building. You can't just say that, okay, everything now is MMI something, and then we have control, because we have to narrow it down to areas. Okay, when is this going to be finished? We look at the timeline of the project. We see that, okay, now it's going to be finished, and then, okay, this area needs an index of 200 or 300 at this point, and we have to narrow it down. So we narrow it down to areas, so we get control of the building. So that's how we work with how we handle, because we get all these comments, and we get all this effect of having this contractors here, and saying that, okay, this is not how we want it. We want to do it differently than you design it, and then it's going to be an issue. And also they always get access to the model, because we use BIM 360 from Autodesk. So they can see all of the design solutions early on. And if we didn't have that index, then we couldn't say how far the design has come. So that's an important thing of that new kind of way to work with the contractors in there. So yeah.
How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, what's the best way? If I give you access to my calendar? No, just kidding. No, it's of course LinkedIn. You can check me out on LinkedIn. It's easy to send me a message. And also on our website, c3bim.no. It's currently just in Norwegian. We never get that English website, and we always think that now we have to do it, but we didn't. So, but you can get my contact information, of course. We have email address and phone numbers and everything. So it's pretty easy to get that.
Thank you very much for being with us. It was really nice to have you here.
Thanks a lot for having me.